I just want it on the record that I came to this deposition willingly.
We understand, sir.
That's all right. Something else will come up in the news cycle tomorrow. We can all just go
Completely
away.
wipe this out.
Oh,
Right?
didn't happen.
Yeah, I want video of me going.
Hold up a blank sheet of paper.
Yeah, just hold it.
My client says he cannot recall at this time.
I have a memory like a sieve.
Are we going to discuss rules lawyers? Is that what just happened?
no.
Oh, man.
I'm out.
Yeah.
I am into it. Let's go.
All right, 3, 2, 1.
Intro.
Guys,
Action. Your director
Action.
had to come out, didn't it?
Action
late for
question
that.
mark.
that's right. Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Established Facts podcast. Hope you guys are doing well, taking care of yourselves. This is episode 245. Yes,
You're guessing, aren't you?
45. I think it's 45. It may be 46.
Thank you
can't-
for having me on
I
this
can't count.
auspicious number.
That's right. That's right.
I mean, you were on the last
I
one.
wrote it down as 45.
So
But
we're
that doesn't-
celebrating the last
246. It's because I wrote down 245.
Yeah, 2:45 was our afternoon.
Was the
with
last
Tracy.
one with Tracy.
This is our slightly later evening with Tracy.
Slightly later evening.
But a different location altogether.
All together and in
Yeah.
person.
Late night with Tracy Hickman.
Hey, all right.
That was last year's.
That's a different episode.
There you go. Well, hi,
That's
everybody.
all right,
Welcome to
everybody. We're
episode
gonna roll some dice. It's gonna be beautiful on the dice side.
246 of the Established Facts. Yeah, so we're at Gen Con. It's Wednesday. I'll tell on us. We don't have to be time travelers this time.
No.
But it's Wednesday before Gen Con. A few of us have gotten our badges, but most of us have not yet, but that's all right. Tracy has an epic tale to tell us about his, so I'm excited for that. But before we get into that, and before we get into our time with Tracy, let's go ahead and go around the table. We'll introduce everybody, and then we'll get right into it. So starting to my left.
What's going on, guys? I'm Piercy. What's up?
Hi guys, this is Princess Katie.
I'm Dragon Lance.
I'm Avital.
I love how you're thrown by that. This is Josh.
Who's left?
And I'm Tracy Hickman.
Yay!
That's right.
And we're not.
And you're
that-
not.
No, we're not. No, we're not. I definitely am not, but I am Big Don, your host here on the Established Facts. Tracy?
Take it away.
Hi.
Well, yes, I am.
Hi.
Hi. Yeah, it's good to be with you guys. I mean, this is becoming a thing that we get to do every year.
Yeah.
And I love it. And every year I'm late.
That's all right. That's all
As
right.
long as you're not the late Tracy Hickman, we're okay with
As
it.
long as
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
I think we've all had experiences today.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're not
Right.
seeing you in the in memoriam this year, right?
No, but then I mean, several years ago it was in the convention that way. It's lifetime guests of honor. Had E. Gary Gygax, deceased, which I'm not sure you can be a lifetime guest of honor if you're deceased. Dave Arneson, deceased. Tracy Hickman. I was feeling a little bit on the bubble at that point.
Yeah.
This year, I'm feeling especially on the bubble, however. Yeah. Laura and I have been traveling since 2 o'clock this morning.
Yikes.
And that's because you can't get to Indianapolis from anywhere.
Yeah.
It's always a layover.
It's always a layover somewhere. It's always a connecting flight somewhere. And for some reason, we ended up taking two separate airlines, one airline here and one airline home when we get to that point.
Sure.
But I should have had a sense of how this day was going to go when we landed in DFW.
Oh my gosh.
And
Yeah.
there was supposed to
Airport.
be somebody there to help us to get to the gate. And they only had one person instead of two people, and they picked up my wife and ran off with her somewhere into DFW. I was left at the bottom of the jetway wondering what I was supposed to do. And I asked the guy that was there several times, do I wait here? Do I come up to, and I got nothing. Okay, fine. So eventually I wandered up and found all of the people who were supposed to help people get someplace were all yelling at each other and trying to get organized. And some carts were going one way and some carts were going another way. And I was getting texts from my wife saying I've been abandoned in a cart somewhere in DFW.
No.
My
And
goodness.
so eventually I was able to get a cart somehow, and we picked her up on the way and got to the gate, I think just in time to walk on the plane. So I should have known my day was going to go this way. So all right, so we get in, we get settled in the hotel, love the hotel, and all I need is a badge. All I need is a badge. And I said, where do I go for my badge? I texted, they said just go to GMHQ. They've got all your badges for you. No problem. I go down to GMHQ, and there's a line to Terre Haute at GMHQ. Fine, all right. Laura said, we're going to get in line. Easiest way to do it, we'll just get in line. Let's not, make a fuss or anything. She's telling me because she doesn't want me to make a fuss. So we get in line. And actually, some people that I'm working with now from Brazil see us from Brazil, see us in line and stop, and are so excited to talk. And I'm standing in this line waiting for my badge, and Laura's here with me and waiting for her badge. So okay, fine. I've been a lifetime guest of honor here for a long time. I've been coming to this convention. We figured it out for 41 years.
Oh my goodness.
That's awesome.
That's right.
Wow.
That's a lifetime for some people at this table.
Well, and there you go.
Or more.
Or possibly more. I'm going to go with more.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I get there, and we finally get to the front. We step up to the table. They give me my packet. Yes. And Laura has a badge. And Laura's friend has a badge. And I have no badge.
Oh.
They have forgotten me.
They should just know that they're like, oh, that's Tracy Hickman.
We were actually talking about this. Laura and I were talking about this when we were down there, and I was like sitting in the penalty box waiting for somebody to make me a badge. And some years ago, we were in Atlanta at Dragon Con. And it turned out that one of the Backstreet Boys, I think it was, happened to be a big Dragonlance fan and was so excited to meet me. Okay? How often do you get, like, a Backstreet Boy to wait in line for you? And so... But we got to talking, and it was very interesting. He said something very wise to us. He said, and it's not going to sound terribly wise when I say it, but it is. He said, lifetime free nachos at Chili's only lasts as long as your last hit.
Oh.
And how did you put it, Laura? Yeah, the lifetime anything only lasts as long as you're popular.
Ooh.
And that's true. And that is true.
And that's why we will never get nachos from
And it
Chili's.
was well, you may not want nachos at Chili's, for all I know. But it actually was a very wise thing. It was an important moment to us. It's something that we've remembered ever since and tried to hang on to, which is the idea that, times change, and especially when it comes to something like fame or notoriety, that it all evolves, and eventually the free nachos apparently stop, and I mean, years ago, if I were to when I would wander down the halls, everybody knew me.
Yeah, I would think it's more like the Finding Forrester moment where Sean Connery's character walks into a auditorium filled with literary characters, and he walks up to a podium and he says, "Some of you may know me." He points to a picture on the wall and says, "That's me." And I think that would be you in this case, where you are as integral to the Geneva Convention as anybody else. So I don't know if your fame is as fleeting as you think it is.
Well, it's hard to know. Sometimes when I walk down the hall, and people, if people ask who I am, I have the feeling like the answer is I used to be Tracy Hickman. But all of that is okay because things do evolve, things do change, and the evolution of that is good. It makes way for everyone who follows, and that's important. So, yes, here we are, and I've come to the I've come to the Geneva Convention. Oh, good.
I know, he got you.
You got that one, yeah. I've come to Gen Con here for like the 41st year that I've attended, and I am far more at ease and excited about everything that's happening, that's coming up behind us. All of the innovation that's being done in games, all of the innovation that's being done in entertainment, is still very exciting for me. In fact, I get to still be involved in it. We didn't talk about it last time because it hadn't been announced yet. But I'm working with this group in Brazil, Loot Studios, and we're creating this game. They're creating this game. They wanted lore. They wanted someone to do lore for it. And I had already become a subscriber to Loot Studios because I thought their miniatures were amazing, and they are. They're amazing art. But they contacted me online and said, "Would you be interested in doing this?" And yeah. And so since January, secretly, we hadn't announced it until just, I think it was last week.
Yeah, I think your video came up right at the end of the weekend.
Yeah, I
You
think
put it
so.
up, yeah.
Yeah. And now I get to talk about this actually at the convention this year. Now I am using, I use Pro Fantasy fractal terrains to create entire worlds in a fractal form, which allows me then to go into whatever level of detail I need to in the individual places in the world. It makes it possible now for me to create worlds that are truly world size and yet still be able to deal with the intimate details in them. So I use Pro Fantasy's fractal terrains to create worlds in kind of a really Greek godlike way. I push a button and a new world appears.
The Sims of role-playing gaming.
Yeah, boom. And Pro Fantasy is based in Britain. I then use those raw maps and I take them into Incarnate.
Incarnate's great.
Incarnate is absolutely fabulous for producing and quickly producing, intuitively producing gorgeous maps. And Incarnate is, I believe they're physically based in Australia.
Okay.
And then I take these maps, these graphics, and the absolute touchstone for me is World Anvil. Because World Anvil is an absolutely fabulous online web-based data management tool. I hate to say it that way, okay? But it's designed specifically for organizing narratives and fantasy and science fiction worlds completely and in detail. And it includes prompts
Yeah.
to help you really get down into the granularity of it.
And that's your basis for Sky Raiders as well, right?
Yes, and I used World Anvil for Sky Raiders as well. And that's Janet and Demetris, they're primarily based in Greece.
Oh my goodness.
So you're world building
Wow.
globally.
I am world building globally. Yeah, and Loot Studios is based in Brazil, and they are the one who are bringing all of this together. It's a fabulous work environment. We do teleconferencing like once a week on Thursdays. Not this Thursday, but and then the rest of the time, everything that I put up into World Anvil, they can see in real time. They're notified of all of the changes. They can look at it. They can know what's being developed, and we can talk about what they want changed, what different directions they want to take. So this is a whole wonderful new frontier in collaborative design
Yeah.
that is now made available to us because of the technology that we've got in the time, much of which has really developed and flourished as a result of COVID.
Okay.
So for me, I still get to, I am still feeling like I'm on the cutting edge of things and creating new and exciting and dynamic things.
That's because you are. I mean, you're mentioning technology and so forth that a lot of us, I work in the tech space. I work in, engineering and manufacturing engineering. And though I've heard of Profantasy, because I think they're the company behind Campaign Cartographer, World Anvil, you're the only person I've ever mention it. And
Really?
yeah, I've never heard it until he mentioned it first. And then, what did you say?
Incarnate.
Incarnate? Yep, never heard of that one
Really?
until now. Nope, not once.
Oh.
I don't know about anybody else, but so that is bleeding edge. That's awesome that you're using that stuff.
Well, and I think it's a place for like any creator where you want to be, is you want to be on the edge as close as you can your entire career, your entire life. I'd say, because if you're a creator, I think you're creating your whole life until you take your last breath. At least from my perspective, you're creating. And so if you can stay in touch with what's going on, not just with technology, but with communities and how those technologies change and interact with those communities, then like you're staying relevant in ways, and you're staying, and where, I don't know, is relevance really that important? Maybe, maybe not. Like if you're selling things, obviously it is. But that is the idea, right, is to stay on that bleeding edge, to know what the people coming up are using and how to interact with that. And I think that's very important.
It's one of the great reasons actually now I think that I personally feel like we're moving into a renaissance period in tabletop games. The things that are being developed now are so interesting and so and intriguing and innovative that and it's all being done in Kickstarter and in
Backer kit.
Backer kit.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, a lot of crowdfunding opportunities and stuff. Yeah.
But if you look at the games that we really want to play, most of those are coming out of Kickstarters, and a lot of established gaming companies are utilizing Kickstarter and BackerKit brilliantly in order to provide us with the kinds of things that we really want and be entertained by.
Yeah, I know. We had a conversation a couple of years ago just about the efficiency of what something like a Kickstarter backer kit can do for a company, especially like a fledgling company that's looking to use it as a marketing opportunity. Because the last thing you want to do as a brand new company coming in is let me drop 20 grand on development for a game that is going to bust. You're immediately in the hole. Whereas if you are paying maybe an artist, or if you yourself are an artist, you like to do a lot of digital design and things like that, you can post a lot of that stuff online, get that social media marketing, get your search engine
Optimization.
thank you. Like up and higher, and then you can get on BackerKit, you can get on Kickstarter, and you can say, hey, this is the thing that we've been working on, that we've been talking to you guys about. Now is an opportunity for you to jump into the boat with us and get this off the ground. And even if it's like a low target for the funding, at least you're getting something on a shelf, right? Or you're getting something in
And
somebody's
there's
hand.
buy-in.
Yeah, there is. That sounds really familiar.
Yeah, exactly.
Why,
exactly.
yeah.
I may not know what you're
Exactly.
talking
Exactly.
about.
I have a little question before we move past it. Is Loot Studios loot like treasure or loot like the instrument? How's it spelled?
LOOT,
Loot like
as
treasures.
in loot the treasure.
It was just bugging me.
You could get a loot as part of
You
it.
can
Yeah.
get
Good, have a loot, call it
from
loot.
loot.
Yes.
Yes,
So
but you'd have to print it.
3D printed loot.
3D printed loot.
I mean, I'm
Well,
sure
that's
it
pretty
exists.
exciting, actually.
Yeah.
You could
I
drop
will
your
get
loot.
on that. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you were
I know where you
unaware,
can do that at.
Jason and his couple of his friends with Accidental Cyclops are in the middle of a backer kit for the second and third book of a trilogy based off Faith No More, the band's catalog of Powered by the Apocalypse role playing games, and we backed the first one. They've already hit your target for the second one, so when we mention it, we are shilling him just as much as we shill you. So
And absolutely, I endorse this product.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well,
The nice thing about that is that it's a wonderful synergy between the developer and the audience. I mean, and even for some very mainstream companies and companies that deal in retail, and a few I don't know, a month or so ago, Gale Force 9 ran a Kickstarter that was the entire Firefly game in a new box. It would all fit in a box, and I think
Did you bring it with you?
I did not bring it with me.
I was gonna say I'll play it. I love that game. It's so much fun.
And it came with a beautiful vinyl
It was gorgeous.
map, and it was absolutely
like
gorgeous, and all of the toys that you'd want to see, and painted minis of the.
Oh, nice.
Okay, so yes, it was. I think it was about a $200 buy-in for the
Okay.
whole.
that's really
thing.
pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah.
But for somebody like Gale Force 9 to say, we want to produce this prestige product and hope somebody buys it, how much better is it for them if they put it on the Kickstarter? I think it worked out to a 2.7 million.
Yeah. I
Right?
think their target was 200,000 or something like that. Yeah.
Right, which would be enough to justify them just kind of putting all the parts together and going to press. But now they already know that they're going to make it. They already know how many to make and how many more they can make that they can go into retail for without the risk.
Right.
And that's true. And that's true not just for a large company, but it's also true for each of us when we have something innovative. Our favorite game currently at our house is The Witcher Old World.
Okay.
Okay. Not that I'm necessarily a big Witcher fan and totally into the lore, all right, but the game mechanics at the heart of the game were so intriguing to me and so unusual that I get really excited about this game just because of the way it plays. And again, that kind of innovation comes from that broader spectrum, I think, of people at home as opposed to a corporation saying, "Hey, make me something that's cool."
Yeah.
That-
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
no, that's an interesting point. And I mean, as I said earlier, the buy-in is one thing, but you are clearly putting it out there for public opinion. Like, this is the idea I have.
What
Do you
works,
guys
what
think it's a good idea? And would you invest in it effectively? And the buy-in element is both financially, but it's also like, you know what, I'm in. Like, this is a really good idea. I want to support it and then promote it, as successful as it may be. I've heard people argue by like companies like Cool Mini or Not, which have struggles with certain things they do in their Kickstarters, but their whole business model has been around that to get things to market. And then, of course, they print extra things to be Kickstarter exclusives and stuff
sure.
along those lines. But if you're a Cool Mini or Not fan, it's probably because at one time you backed a Kickstarter and got some really neat stuff and want to get more neat things moving
Yeah.
forward.
Conversely, it is a great way for you, if you're a fan of something, to feel like you're a part of that thing. Because sometimes you just like a thing and you want to help support it, but you don't know how to get a hold of their PR people, or you don't know, you maybe have an idea for something, you don't know how to contact that company other than like Google search, and maybe I send them an email and maybe they respond to it. But here's a way you have a direct way to get a hold of them, and they will listen to your ideas because now money's on the line.
I will
give you a
I'm-
good
oh,
example,
sorry.
actually, I think, of something very much like what you're talking about. And that was Restoration Games, who does some fabulous stuff. I mean, anybody who's got Dark Tower, yeah. But they, sometime back, they floated on Kickstarter a Thunder Road, I think.
Thunder Road Vendetta. It's so good.
Oh, it's so good.
But-
It's so good.
But when they first floated Thunder Road Vendetta, it didn't go. We went on Kickstarter and they didn't get the backing that they were looking for because there were things in the game that they were proposing to do that just didn't work, just didn't connect with their usual audience, right? And I was following it because when I was young, I used to play the game, the old version of the
I
game.
still have the old baby.
See, there you go.
Did you
With
bring
my
it?
son.
We can play it.
I always take it to BuiltCon.
Okay.
Are you
Well,
going to
we'll
ask every
definitely-
person if they brought every game they mentioned today?
I did.
Tic-tac-toe.
We can.
Gloomhaven, Frosthaven.
Yeah? Bring it?
Tyrants of the Underdark.
Bring it?
No.
Anyways, back to Thunder Road.
So they took the Kickstarter down.
Yeah.
They said, they mea culpa'd it. It was really pretty amazing. They said, you know what? We're sorry. We kind of screwed this up. We weren't giving you what you wanted. We're going to go back and we're going to retool, and then and when we've got the game that we think you really want, we'll come back. And they did. They sixed their own Kickstarter, went back, figured out what was wrong, and they came back with Thunder Road Vendetta. And I love Thunder Road Vendetta. Although, unfortunately, when my kids were playing my Thunder Road Vendetta, one of their smaller children found the motorcycles and started playing with them. They fell on the floor and were promptly eaten by one of their dogs.
Yep.
Oh, man.
However, the good people over at Restoration Games did manage to find me a couple of extra motorcycles, so my set looks just fine.
Nice.
But that's an example of what you're talking about, where you don't necessarily, not every Kickstarter has to be a success, that people can actually learn from those that aren't working, retool, and come back much stronger than before.
Yeah,
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay, I just wanted to add to what Lance and Tracy were saying to you as kind of a tertiary opportunity with like Kickstarter and BackerKit and things like that. And we experienced this when we talked about. I think we may have been talking with you and Jason Ward. Because Princess Katie happened to mention that she didn't even ask for the fulfillment
Yeah,
of
I
her
just
product.
backed their
She
Kickstarter.
just
Didn't
wanted
fill out
she
the survey.
just
I
wanted
wanted
to
give
be
them the
there
money.
as like support to some friends who are getting something off the ground, which I think is another, like, it's a tertiary opportunity for you to just say, like, maybe Marvel zombie side is not my thing, but I love the stuff that Guillotine Games and that CMON come out with. So I want to show them that I have that support, and I want to see that this is, that I have an opportunity to help this be successful,
And
which I think
actually-
is cool too.
And actually, Princess Katie, that's very important. And it's an important thing for us to remember, is that our audience, the people who are playing the games that we create or experiencing the art that we produce, if they have an experience with that art, and if it is something that is internalized for them, it is of value to them. It's a cherished thing, and they want to show their appreciation to you for having produced it and created it. Whether that's praise and thanks, or whether that's financial, whether it's money. Both can be just as sincere, and both can be just as important to the artist who created the original work. So I know I've been a creative professionally most of my working life, and there's some, I don't know, part of me from somewhere in childhood that wants to be really altruistic about it. But the truth is that when people buy my art, it is an appreciation, and not just a financial exchange, and has to be seen that way.
Well, that's why in that scenario too, and we found a few other people that something happened when they filled out the backing stuff. We're like, oh, we didn't get our stuff. It's like, you didn't? You backed us? Here. Like, here, you did this. Thank you so much for backing. Like, what can I do to make this right? Like, let's get this fixed for you.
Yeah.
Because whatever happened on the technology, because technology is never perfect, right? It's great, but it's never going to be perfect. Things can mess up. So when you have someone that shows appreciation and just like, oh, we care, show that appreciation right back. I think as a creator, you have to. I have to is the wrong word, but it feels like the only right thing to do from my perspective. It's like, oh, you did that? Thank you so much. Here, how can we make this right?
But also, applause doesn't pay the bills.
True. But being honest and being, if something doesn't go right, and you gotta learn from your mistakes. Being honest to the people that are listening to you or backing you or supporting you is just as important.
Oh, no
Because that
argument.
creates trust.
No argument. Just
Like trust.
the people that are also saying like, "Oh, I love your stuff." Great. Did
Sure.
you buy it? No, but I love your stuff. That's I love your stuff is great, but did you buy it? Oh yeah, I bought a copy. Thanks, man. That helps
Fair,
even
that's
more.
fair. That's
Right.
fair.
Well, I mean, I've heard, well, we all hear the horror stories. The reason that there is a writer's strike currently and a creative strike in Hollywood right now is because those people who are feeding the grist to the mill are not being appreciated. And so when it comes to you can only do that for so long before you have to demand appreciation for what you do, especially in an environment that is so charged with money.
Yeah.
And so that appreciation needs to take the form, needs to take that financial form. We used to tell, and there's also the problem of the internet, where everybody thinks that if it's on the internet, it's free. That the stuff that was written on the internet must be free, just because it's easy to obtain doesn't necessarily mean that it's free. We give, Laura and I taught, oh no, they've come for me. Oh,
We've been in here for almost 3 hours. It's the first time we've heard one.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
I told you, it's me.
It's you.
Yeah. It's, we would tell people in writing seminars, and they really had trouble with this, especially young writers and early writers who are somehow caught up in the art of it all. We would tell them this, and they would hate it, that a free book is worth every penny.
Yeah.
That a free book is meaningless because there's no exchange involved. Now, when we say free book, though, we don't mean that every book has to be bought with coin. if you were to offer your book, for example, in exchange for someone's email address, their contact information, that is an exchange. And that means that, okay, yeah, if you want, you enjoyed this, and so now you enjoyed it enough to invest in me and give me your email so that now I can get in touch with you. That's value. That too is value. But to just put a book up on the internet and say, oh, I hope somebody buys it, or not buys it. I just hope somebody downloads it and reads it, and won't that be wonderful? No, a free book is worth every penny. For me, you really need to have an exchange, even if it's just contact and an email, to at least have an expression of value in it.
I was going to say, just building off of what you were just talking about, a lesson that Josh and I learned, I guess 8 years ago now. We have a very dear friend of ours who has been our improv coach and mentor and friend for a very long time. And it was so interesting because in his very first class, which I think his first class was like $50 for us to do, we did a 2-day workshop with him, improv comedy and different things like that. And he said the reason that he does a $50 price instead of a free price is because if you pay for it, you will invest in it.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. It is that investment in the work that actually drives the work. My father used to tell me whenever he would produce plays, he always charged admission for the plays, partly because that had a tendency to leave families with small children at home.
Yeah.
And knowing my father, yes, I can understand why he would do that. But he also said it's that very same point, which is that if someone pays for the ticket, they're invested in it. And being invested in it, they will contribute.
Yeah.
Continue to contribute to it. You want an audience that is contributing. You want an audience that's engaged. And audience is what it's all about today. Look at Brandon Sanderson's recent crowdfunding. He had phenomenal success crowdfunding a book series. And the reason that one of the reasons that I believe he had phenomenal success is that for many, many years, Brandon has actively worked to accumulate a massive mailing list.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And an author should do that because it's no longer about being published, it's about being read, it's about having an audience. The only difference between somebody downloading my book from Amazon or someone downloading my book off of my website, which means I don't have to pay a lot of money to Amazon. The only difference between those two things is where to click or awareness of where to find the book.
Yeah.
And that's audience. Publishing has changed so very much. It used to be that you would go into publishing and you would depend on the publisher to provide you with an audience. They would get you into the bookstores, the Barnes and Nobles, the B. Daltons, the Waldens.
All gone.
And they're gone. Today, when authors come into publishing, the first thing the publisher wants to know is, do you have an audience? Who's reading your book? How many of you sold before? And that's because what used to be that an editor was given allowance to buy books, and they would buy books on merit. Today, it's a committee that looks at the financial structure of any publishing project.
The risk and the reward.
It's all return on investment. It's all risk and reward.
Yeah.
But I think like Kickstarter, BackerKit, and the different crowdfunding, if you go there, you do well, you have a good campaign, you can prove an audience then, and you can show that you have some sort of, success is probably the right word, but some kind of engagement with a crowd and with people. And it is not as difficult to do that today as it used to be, which is great. I agree with you, like shows innovation and like people
It
can
does.
create.
It does, but someone getting into the creative arts today needs to be aware that it's a different ball game than what they saw in the 1940s movies. That things have changed. Publishing was the same for centuries, but it has all changed in the last 10 to 20 years. And for an artist today, they need to be aware of how that is. That's why I love coming to Gen Con. I get to meet a lot of creative people when I come to Gen Con. And more than that, I love getting back in touch with our readers, the people who actually make our work live and breathe and have meaning.
Well, I'm glad that you and I worked on the scripting of this portion in this segue into this next question.
Did I follow that?
You did a great job. You did a great job.
You kept sending me
I-
these
Right.
notes.
I know. No, I wanted to ask you though, as somebody who, and I think most of us at the table love being storytellers at some point, whether it's with our kids or with our friends playing a Dungeons and Dragons game or something like that. But I would like to know from you, what are the things that you like to invest yourself in? What are the things that you really enjoy connecting with that help you kind of push into that next level of creativity or storytelling, or even just like a charismatic exchange with somebody who has something that looks neat or new or something like that?
Well, first, it's my wife,
Okay,
because
it's a great answer.
it's a great answer.
Especially over a vacation weekend. Great.
Well, I don't
It's a
mean
work
to
weekend. I know.
disillusion anybody. This is no vacation weekend for me. No, my wife and I have been in partnership for pretty much as long as I can remember. I mean, we met in junior high school. And somehow I survived the teenage years. I don't know how. I went. I mean, the short of it all is that as a high school graduate. And when you're a graduate from high school, you know everything. There's nothing else you need to know anymore.
Paid all that money for nothing.
That's it.
And what I realized was that what I really wanted in my life was her. And because she made me better. And we had this conversation that went nonstop all through my teenage years. And she was, and sometimes we dated, and sometimes we weren't dating, and sometimes we were a couple, and sometimes we weren't a couple, and it was tempestuous. But hey, it's teenage years, but she always seemed to be at the center of the conversation for me somehow. So by the time I graduated high school, I knew that if I was going to have any shot at winning her over at all, that I would actually have to go overseas and do mission service for 2 years, and I told her I decided to go do the mission service because I knew if I'd stayed home, I didn't have a chance with her. So I called her up and I said I had to go on mission, do my mission service. And I asked her if she'd wait for me. She didn't hesitate a moment. She said no. But I knew it was the risk I had to take. And so I did my missionary service for 2 years in Indonesia. It was great being a Christian missionary in the most populous Islamic country in the world. Mm-hmm. I learned a great many things there. The most important thing that I learned was an absolute respect and love for all people and cultures. Mm-hmm. and to embrace them. Came home, and she had dated all of Southern California while I was away, but she
You are welcome at any point to just come into camera and smack him.
If she was going to do that, she'd have done it by now.
Or she's planning on ending the show that way.
yeah.
Everything
see,
is good. He is a storyteller, even if it's the truth.
So I came home, and she was standing there. Back in those days, you could do this, standing at the top of the jetway, waiting for me. And that was it. We were married 3 months later. And the thing is that conversation continued. There was only one break in the conversation, and that was during my mission when we broke up while I was a missionary. And I had written to her every week. I quit writing to her every week, and I started writing to her mother. Every week, my letters showed up at her house addressed to her mother, and her mother said, she wanted to read the letters. Her mother wouldn't let her. She says, "You didn't want him." These are my letters. He's writing to me. Now he's not writing to you. If he wanted you to read these, he'd have read to you.
That's good.
So I came home. We got married, and the conversation has been eternal. It has been a conversation that's lasted all of these years, through good times, through bad times, and every creative thing that I have ever done, she has been a part of. She's not always been on the masthead, and does not get the credit that she deserves. But everything that I have ever done has been something that has been part of this evolving, constant conversation. We still talk all the time, and that very much is the source of creativity for me. It was funny. I found a picture the other day of me at TSR, if you can remember this far back, in my cubicle, right? It was my place, my little box that they put me to write stuff.
Your infinite realm of storytelling within a
In the
5x5
5 by
square.
5.
Infinite creative powers.
Living space.
Absolutely. And behind me, and I'm holding this plaque, and the plaque is the TSR $1 Million Club, okay? Which means that the products that had my name on them had earned the company over $1 million. And yes, all I got was this plaque.
And your salary.
And my salary. But on the wall, there's a glass wall behind me for lighting, and on this wall, I had put up the covers of the adventures that had my name right behind me. So I'm holding this $1 Million Club plaque, and it's got all of these covers to these adventures behind me. And Laura was looking at this the other day. She says, half of those are mine. She did not get a $500,000 club plaque, though.
Oh, man.
For that.
So
No, she didn't
she's
get
not
a
get a
plaque.
plaque, no. So the truth of the matter is
You did get a plaque.
Welcome to the Established Facts. Welcome to the Established Facts and our special guest, Laura Hickman's husband, Tracy.
That's right.
Bravo.
So I've got a curiosity. So you've been doing this for 40 plus years, coming to Gen Con.
Yeah, I've been at Gen Con 41 years.
How many conventions do you see in a year? What is your kind of yearly breakdown of how often you do this? And
On average, I'd say one. Especially now. I mean, it's difficult for me to get out and travel as much as I used to. We were, and we've gone to some really amazing conventions. I mean, we've attended the Lucca convention in Lucca, Italy. It's just a fabulous convention, and we loved going and doing that. We attended a convention in Melbourne. It was actually a Gen Con Australia.
They only did one of those, though, didn't
They
they?
did one of those, and we were there.
There you go.
And maybe that explains it, which worries me a little bit. But we did. We've done other conventions as well. We've occasionally will go and do Dragon Con. They only want us there once every other year, because I think that's as much as they can take. And although we love Atlanta, we love the people in Atlanta. The convention's crazy.
That's what I hear.
That's a 5-day convention, isn't it? Dragon Con?
Yeah, we learned that when the sun goes down, you should go to your room, barricade the door, get
Yep.
some garlic. It's good, right?
The vampire.
And then just wait until the dawn.
Dragon Con, yeah.
Yeah, Dragon.
Yeah.
All I hear is that it's wild.
Party Central. From,
Yes,
it's
Dragon
the Party
Con
Con.
is
Great for
wild.
Gen Conners.
See, it's the culmination of the gaming conventions between Origin and then Gen Con and then Dragon Con.
Yeah,
They
but-
just they crank it up a notch every time they do a different convention.
Oh, okay. There's probably some truth in that.
Dragon Con is like the convention version of a gathering dedicated to Bacchus. Like,
Yeah, pretty much.
Bacchus, the Greek god of partying and
Yeah.
wine.
I try to
Hedonism.
not look at the costumes too closely.
That's probably good for HR purposes.
Yeah,
too.
it really is. Although
I have the best view of Laura. I
Yeah.
keep seeing her face. Sorry.
there was this one time.
Laura has advised
She just
him not
said,
to tell
"Oh,
this
no."
story.
On advice of counsel, I apparently am not allowed to tell the story of my judging the costume contest. It was
Oh goodness.
not good. So, but yeah, Gen Con is pretty much it. Conventions are difficult to do, but I do love meeting the readers of our books and I love meeting our audience. They're the ones who perform the books, and I love seeing everybody who's done that performance. We do have a new book coming out. It came out yesterday.
Getting mine tomorrow morning.
You should.
I am.
You should. Yes.
And
As long as I get there on time, Don.
It was. Yeah. I got to get up too. You know.
I got to be at my event at 7:45, so I
should
hope
be
you'll
fine,
be there.
yeah.
I hope you'll be there on time.
We're very, very excited about it, and the book is wonderful. Dragons of Fate's a tremendous. Margaret and I, when we write really solid second acts. Sturm was the second act.
That's such a good. That is such a good book.
It is. It is a really good
really is.
book. And this book. I was actually. Okay, it's going to sound a little sad, but I was actually reading my book on the way out to the convention, and I'm on the airplane. I'm thinking, hey, this is pretty good. And it is. It's an amazing story and a shattering ending. It's
What happened
What's that?
today?
today. Oh, that's true. We found I was on my way to the convention today, and I got an email congratulating us. The book came out yesterday,
Yeah.
and it has just gone to second printing.
Oh my god.
Congratulations.
Nice job.
That's great.
Already.
Hey, I didn't do anything. That was all those people buying the books.
That's awesome.
You can still get congratulated as the author because you were notified.
That's
None of us
true.
that bought the book got notified
No, you were
there was
notified.
another printing.
But the good thing tomorrow is that they're going to be first editions. So
Yeah.
Nice.
There you go.
That's great.
That's cool.
That's so neat.
So, question as a consumer, do you have plans to do an audio version of your own books?
Yeah, I've done audio. I have done audio versions of books sometimes. I actually did an audio reading of Dragon Wings many years ago, which somehow has not resulted in additional contracts for book reading. Yeah, I like actually doing book readings. Laura and I did a version of Immortals on our own that we read and produced, and I really enjoyed that. I like doing production anyway. Audio production is especially fun.
It is super fun.
You work with the whole sound space, and you can really create a lot in that sound space without paying for special effects and things like that. So yeah, I would like to do that. The thing that we're mostly facing, I think, at this point is when I first started at TSR, when I was first hired at TSR, I was pretty much the average age in the company at the time. I think I was 24 when I was first hired to write.
20 years ago.
Well, let's do some math.
It's his 41st Gen Con.
I actually, and I will be turning 68
Oh my.
this year. And while Laura and I discussed this this is another part of our discussions currently, which is that our heads still think at like the 20-year-old rate, but the bodies aren't moving quite the way they did.
Yeah.
And so I get tired. I get the work gets tiring. Now, at the moment I'm like working 3 full-time jobs.
I got you.
I've got Sky Raiders that we're completing. We actually should have the manuscript ready to go to press in the next couple of months.
Yay.
I've also got, of course, the books with Margaret, and we've got another one coming out, the final one in that series coming out next year. And I've got the project with Loot Studios, The Relics Untold, which has become just a really fascinating world that I'm really excited to get people involved in. And the game's a wonderful game, and the Loot miniatures are just off the charts. But and by the way, they brought miniatures for demos this year, so I need to like get you guys hooked up with those. Okay.
Cool.
Yeah.
We'll come find you.
Yeah. Come.
I'll see you in the morning. So
Yeah, you will see me in the morning. Well, and the Loot, the gentlemen from Loot who are here are also going to be with us in the booth.
Okay, cool.
So yeah.
which
come
booth?
talk.
You're at Margaret's booth this year?
I'm in Margaret's booth this year.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So yeah, come find me there or find me in the morning. I should be up. And it's going to be exciting tomorrow morning
Yes.
too. It's going to be quite a show, I think, actually, in the morning, unexpectedly so.
There's still some special things you can't talk about, right? What's happening?
Yeah,
Yeah. He's a special guest that
Awesome.
you have to be there for.
yeah, you have
Wish I could
but you have to be there in spirit. You'll hear about
Yeah,
it.
I'm sure I will.
But Laura and I've talked about this, and we can't continue to work this hard. Laura has her own business that she's started up and that she's exploring, and we just can't work as hard as we used to, as much as we used to. So it's,
You're not announcing your retirement on our podcast right now, are you?
no, because
Contracted.
Ready for that?
well, artists. I don't think artists retire.
Exactly.
Artists maybe fade away, but they never retire. My father. We just held my father's 90th birthday celebration.
Wow.
And at the birthday celebration, he presented each of the families with a collection of, I believe it was 5 spiral-bound books, one of which was a history of a mining town in southern Utah where his mother had been raised, and a collection of all of the folk tales from this mining town. Wonderful book. Another book that was a collection of all of his poems that he's written down through the years. Another book that was a collection of his paintings, reproductions of all of the oil paintings that he has done down through the years. And another book was a book of memories of his, of different things down through his life. He's 90 years old, and he has been writing these books as part of his legacy for his family. And the poems are cherished. They're some of them are hilarious. Some of them are sublime. Some of them are deeply moving because of the things they represent in his life. But he's 90 years old, and he's still making books. And I just don't think artists retire. We slow down, maybe.
That reminds me of a conversation I had with a very good friend of mine who I've done music with for a long time. And we were he does music for his church, and I was talking about music for my church. And we just got to talking about like the history of like our time, like individually and like ministry and things like that. And he said something about how he was going to be like he was thinking about retiring from ministry. And I was like, I don't think you could do that. I don't, you know what I mean? Like you said, that may be something that you slow down with, but it's like your mind never stops coming up with new hooks and new characters and new stories to tell.
And there's always something that you can contribute. Everyone has something that they can contribute. Everyone has something of value that they can bring as an offering, whatever it is that they're doing. You mentioned music, and I wanted to tell this story, which was I love music. I've always loved music. Laura and I both are this way. I was in a folk group when I was in high school, and
Of course you were.
of course I was. And Laura and I have always been in every choir that we could possibly be in. We actually both tried out for the Tabernacle Choir on Temple Square, and that was grueling, and that's a story in and of itself. But we've always loved music. Music's always been a part of our lives. When we moved to our current home, we went to visit our church that Sunday, and sat down, and the organist began to play, and I've never heard a church organ make this sound. It was so full and intricate and beautiful, and you know, service had ended and everybody got up to like leave, and he started like playing a recessional, and we just sat back down because it was that was unbelievable. It turned out that the organist that day was actually one of the organists for the Tabernacle Choir. And plays, I don't know if you've ever seen the organ with
Oh, yeah.
The giant Wurlitzers.
The big pipe organs, and that's what he does. That is actually what he does for a living, But on Sunday, if he didn't happen to be downtown playing for this world-class choir on their weekly worldwide broadcast. He was in our chapel,
Nice.
cranking it up and making sounds that I just didn't think that could make.
Well, and a lot of that kind of came out. I know we're going to be wrapping up here soon. During all the COVID stuff, and you saw how people were trying to find ways to entertain even from home, and you would see popular acts, whether whatever Christian rock, whatever, you'd see them playing from their living room.
Yes.
Like they just put their guitar and their amp out and they play from their living room, and
what I do.
it's what I do because it was important to recognize during all of that time who you are. And it's really important, like in what you do in the creative space. I mean, this is a creative space for us as well, even though sometimes it's just having a conversation and hoping people listen. You just acknowledge who you are and be glad about it. Huh.
You what was the quote about books that you get every penny?
Free
you pay
books
for?
are worth
Yeah,
every penny.
free books are worth every penny.
Anyway,
They are.
free
Monetized
podcasts are worth
podcast.
every.
I didn't want to make a comment, but I was going to say, and this is the part where we tell you we're going to start charging $4.99 a month.
There's now a paywall.
Somebody's launching a Patreon. I'll be glad to hear how that works.
No, I hope future generations can look back, and I hope there's a technology around in future generations that can look back and see this generation and go, expression is absolutely essential to the human spirit. Because when we couldn't be around each other, when we couldn't do something like this, we all still found ways to express with each other and try to connect and be with each other. And that's, yeah,
I
I
still
hope that's the thing we can look back on.
I still remember watching John Krasinski when he was doing the Happy News on YouTube.
So-
Did you guys
yes.
ever?
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
that
so
was
that,
so
that
good.
oh my gosh, just his personality is so good for that kind of a situation where it's just like, you know what, like let's put some happy news out there and let's do some good things for your spirit. So, well, yeah, I guess first of all, Tracy, thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us.
Sure, and thank you for waiting around long enough for me to actually show up.
Every time we will every time. We love hanging out with
This
you.
guy is still bright this time.
That's true.
Right.
That is
You're
true.
going to go to dinner beforehand
This is
this
a
time.
vast improvement.
By
We
hours.
are so doing better at this, guys.
Next year, we'll be the ones waiting at the airport to pick you up to make sure that you and Laura get to where you need to be. You tell us where your
Y'all got
layover
earpieces.
is, and we'll drive out.
Earpieces
God.
and sunglasses
That's it.
walking through Gen Con.
That's
like,
right.
Get this
Not
man
in
a
a
badge.
suit. Not in a suit though. Nerdy shirts. We
Nerdy
got to do
shirts,
nerdy
yeah.
shirts. You gotta do. All right. Well, oh my goodness. So. As you all know, at the end of each one of our episodes, we like to, go back and tag
Reflect.
a couple of fun reflections from our episodes. So, on our last episode, which just so happened to be, I guess, part one of hanging out with
Part one of
Hickmans.
me, yeah.
we established two facts. The first one is it is our medical advice for you to be at Gen Con and to see Tracy, even if you need a doctor's note, which, if you do, we happen to know a gal. And the second one was when all else fails, throw it out the window, which is, I think, going to go down as one of my favorites after 245 episodes. That is great. So on episode 246 of the
We're
Established
coming
Facts.
up on 250 now.
I know, man.
Coming up on
I know.
250.
I know. So I started writing a few of them, and I've just it's
Shotgun fact.
yeah. It should be a 3 count.
Oh,
if it was the stable, it'd be a 3 count.
Our
but
wrestling
it's-
podcast would do a 3 count instead of an established fact. Anyways,
So this is all one. Okay, here we go. It's profanity. I'm sorry. It's profantasy, not profanity.
Yeah.
Big Don's thirsty for board games.
2.
And yeah. And Lord Hickman is Tracy and the Established Facts $500,000 queen.
3. Yeah, it's good. Yes.
Yep. Tracy, thank you so much for hanging out with us.
Thank you. And I just wanted to say very quickly how grateful I am for this group. You guys have just been wonderful to me, and I love what you do here.
And we love and
Thank
respect
you.
you.
Thank you. We love you too.
so much.
Thank you.
We love you both. And we'd say we love you
That's
to
right, we
your
have
kid.
to-
That's right. That's
You
right.
better include Laura.
That's right.
Okay.
I know.
$500,000
That's
queen.
$500,000 queen over there. That's right. All right. Well, we love you guys. What's it? $500,000 king. It's the $500,000
You
king.
split things equally, just
Yeah,
different
you gotta-
titles.
We have.
That's it. Well, we love you guys too. We're so glad you joined us on episode 246 of The Established Facts, and we will check you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Deuces.
Ciao.
Clear.